This week we drive two cars from Sweden. Saab solid sellers, the 900 and the larger 9000, have recently been revamped, so this week Carfile drives their replacements, the 93 and 95.
Back in 1947, the boss of a Swedish aircraft builder, Svenska Aeroplan Bolaget, was sat in his office pondering his company's future over a glass of Swedish vodka and some smorgasbord. The problem was he wasn't selling enough planes, and he knew that to sell more planes, he needed to get the general public to buy them. One problem there, planes are out of most people's reach. So he came up with a plan. He decided to dispense with the wings and instead get his aircraft engineers to design a totally new car. Svenska Aeroplan Bolaget became known as Saab, and the rest, as they say, is history. And a few years on in the history lesson, Saab are launching a new model, the 95. Will it keep up with their reputation for great turbos, a smooth, graceful ride and a high level of spec? The cabin is certainly packed with high levels of innovation and a great standard of equipment, but of course it's on the road performance that actually counts, so let's give it a go. First problem is, where's the ignition? Is this some kind of Swedish intelligence test for the uninitiated? No, in keeping with Saab's traditions, the ignition is mounted here in the centre of the console next to the handbrake, which when you actually think about it is a far more logical place to find it anyway, particularly if, like me, you're left-handed. Saab's smooth ride quality has been enhanced if it were possible. You almost float along on even the roughest of road conditions. The 2.3 litre engine that we tested has plenty of pulling power, not just at acceleration, but also in the mid-range. And behind the wheel, well, the 95 feels solid and grips well. This really is a great cruising car, but just let down a little bit by the fact that it should be slightly more direct in the steering. Well, the 95 is the third addition to Saab's range, but it doesn't replace anything, does it?
No, Ginny, we're going to carry on with the 9000 till the end of the decade, and the very successful 900 carries on. But this is an all-new premium car for us, in addition to the range.
So you're attacking the 5 Series buyers and the Audi buyers.
And the Volvo and the Mercedes and the Aspiras.
All those people.
Yeah.
How is Saab, how are you going to stand out? What do you offer that the others don't?
Well, I think Saab's always been known as really mixing very good performance, good fun driving with very safe driving.
This is your second collaboration with General Motors, isn't it? So is this a pure Saab, or are there a few Americanisms in there, do we think?
No, I think it's a very Saab product. You know, the Swedish engineers are very independent.
So they've decided what they want and they've gone for it.
Absolutely, designed the platform to suit the car.
Right, and as you say, there are still a lot of traditional Saab styling cues in there. What do we find that's pure Saab, do you think?
Pure Saab, well, I think the attention to detail. The engine, of course, is now totally turbo, whether you go from the 2 litre to the V6 or the full turbo. All eco-power engines now.
So what do we find under the bonnet? What's in the engine range?
Engine range, well, we start off at 2 litre. So you're going to have a 2.3 V6 and in the autumn next year a full turbo. And of course, how will it be priced? Priced? Well, the pricing we think we've been very aggressive. The actual price entry starts at 21,995 on the road, which is a very aggressive price if you consider the specification with things like air conditioning as standard and those famous head restraints. Well, it's 50 years now for the plane builder turned car manufacturer. How important is the success of the 95 in Britain to the success of the 95, you know, as a whole? Yeah, it's very important. Britain are taking around 16% of worldwide sales at the moment. In fact, the second most important market to America. So you can rest assured they're very keen to see us succeed with the car. And why should British buyers go up and out and buy the 95? Well, I think it's fun to drive, and I think you can say that it's the perfect synthesis of performance and safety.
Once you get inside the cabin of the 9.5, there's an undeniable sense of luxury, a feeling that if you were to own this car, then you'd be doing pretty much all right for yourself. Now, at first glance, it may seem like there's a bewildering array of buttons and knobs here in front of you. But what this wraparound dash does, which is a familiar sight in all Saabs, is make sure that everything is within easy reach, and it really doesn't take you long to become familiar to where things are. Now, as you would expect from a car in this class, there's a very, very high standard of equipment levels. Now, before I go through the whole list, why not just take a look at a few of the more ingenious ones? There are 15 storage compartments and cup holders on this vehicle, and I think this is the cleverest cup holder I've ever seen. You're driving on a nice, bright, sunny day like this. Well, you don't want to get glare from the side window. Simple, flip it over, and there you have a double sun visor. Again, perfect for this hot weather is air conditioning, which comes as standard. But how many vehicles do you know where there's a refrigerated glove box? Perfect for keeping all that chocolate cold on those long drives. The car does have pollen filters, but in addition to that, there are, wait for it, odour filters. And you know, it's not just the things that make day-to-day driving easily and more enjoyable that Saab have thought about. They've also given an incredible amount of thought to safety. You can drive content in the knowledge you have ABS, front and side airbags, anti-submarine seats, impact beams, and a head restraint to protect you from whiplash, to name just a few. Saab are famed for the comfort of their seats. They actually work with orthopaedic specialists at the design stage, and these are a model of ergonomic delight. They're not too soft that you can't feel the car's movements, not too hard that they become uncomfortable. There's an array of electronic positions for the seat. There's even seat ventilation and a steering wheel that adjusts for both height and for reach. With all this choice, I challenge any of you not to find the perfect position for you. And when you consider the comfort, the driving capabilities and the high levels of spec, this Swede should certainly give the Germans a run for their money.
Saab, a name synonymous with safety, reliability, great big bumpers, ABBA, and of course Sweden. Well, some of those items are behind them because Saab have come a very long way in the past few years and build some very desirable cars now. Cars like this, the new 9.3. Now, hang on a minute, you're thinking, this is a 900 surely. Well, it's not. This is the all-new Saab 9.3, and it's had major revisions over the 900, or so Saab tell us. Now, I've never quite been able to make my mind up about Saab cars. Don't get me wrong, they make some very good cars, and I've considered buying one or two over the years, but never quite been able to take the plunge for some reason. Maybe because you think they're not quite in the same league as, say, BMW or Mercedes, but perhaps that's where Saab are actually the winners in all this. Now, thankfully, the days of those huge black bumpers that we saw on the 900 back in the 1980s and early 90s have long gone. These days they're a lot more refined, but of course safety is still paramount for Saab cars, and I'll never forget the 900 series that my parents-in-law had back in the 1980s. It was comfortable, it was safe, and it was secure, and of course that's what Saab are hoping for with the new 9.3 to continue those long-held traditions. Now look at this, surely the star of the Saab range, the new 9.3 convertible. It looks visually very similar to the old 900 convertible, but there are one or two changes that you might spot if you look very closely at it. But it is a beautiful looking car, very desirable. The hood is simplicity itself. The same hood that Mercedes used on their cabriolets and convertibles from years gone by. And it's so simple, it all folds neatly back into the rear, the windows go down, and it's open top motoring at its best. Now the 9.3 comes in a choice of 3 different styles, as with the 900 that it replaced. There's the 3-door, a 5-door, and this 3-door convertible too. Plus, of course, you get a choice of 4 different engines, more about that later. Prices start from £16,500, rising to just over £30,000 for something like this, the SE convertible that's got everything on it. Trim is very good too, generally anyway. You get 3 different trim levels. There's standard, there's an S and an SE, and something like this, the 9.3 SE convertible, has basically everything on it. Although one thing that the standard car doesn't have on is an alarm, which is rather surprising. It's got an immobiliser, but no alarm on a car costing £16,500. Rather mean. So let's see if the revisions that Saab say they've made to the 9.3 over the existing 900 series really work and really come into play. Let's take this gorgeous 9.3 turbo convertible for a spin. John, you're showing us the new 9.3 here today. A lot of people would think, what's the difference between the 900 and the new 9.3? Perhaps you can just run through some of the main points in the evolution of the 9.3.
Yes, I mean, it reminds you of the old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. We've made a few external changes. The bumper treatments and the grille, front and rear, are different. But it's really the changes under the skin on 9.3 which I think are significant. We've remodelled a lot of the front suspension, the front struts and the dampers, and we've got more spring travel. What this adds up to on the road, we think, is a more compliant ride and more direct, quicker steering as well. And we think it's quite an advance over 900.
Now, you'll obviously be looking for original 900 customers to come into the 9.3. Who else do you think you might pull in terms of from other brands?
Well, we certainly think we've got a competitive proposition here for the BMW drivers, Audi drivers, but we know with 900 a lot we're also trading up from some of the volume brands, so we think we've got a more attractive proposition here.
And how do prices compare up against either the other brands and over the old 900 range?
Well, we've done a lot of competitor analysis in terms of pricing and equipment you get in the car, and we know, as I think we've demonstrated today, that pricing-wise it undercuts, we think, most of the competition. There are a lot of important standard items in our cars which we may have to pay for as extras with other competitors without going into a lot of detail. On average, as the car stands, it's about 2.5% more than 900. But if you add in the price and the improvement in specifications, you could argue it's really not gone up at all. So we're maintaining our position in the market as offering something which we think is very competitive.
Now, what about pricing over the original 900 and over your competitors? How does the new 9.3 compare up?
Well, we think, of course, it compares very favourably. We really do have a very high level of standard specification in our cars, and there are many items, electric windows and the like, alarm immobilisers, which we may have to pay extra for. We've done the analysis, and we do know, certainly as regards our major competitors, religion sometimes forbids me mentioning names, but certainly BMW and Audi, we are, I think, significantly better value than those. And we'll be getting customers, as we always do, from those marks, and also the other end, the volume end of the market, people trading up, I think, can be attracted into these cars.
The car's steering, ride and handling are all considerably improved, taking the dynamics of 9.3 much closer to 9.5 levels. On the steering, they've strengthened the rack mountings and reduced the steering gear ratio. On the road, that gives the driver a quicker, more direct and precise response. They've now fitted an hydraulic clutch across the whole range, and again that improves feel and control for the driver and eases the process of gear changing. Saab being Saab, their engineers are always keen to improve levels of safety, and 9.3 has 2 important new features. First, those front seats have a real safety bonus. They're fitted with interactive head restraints, just like the 9.5s. These restraints give useful protection against neck whiplash, which is the most common type of road injury. And the value of that feature was recently recognised when Saab won the Prince Michael Road Safety Award for technical innovation. The other important safety improvement is the standard fitment of twin-section side impact airbags, giving both head and chest protection. The big news under the bonnet of the new 9.3 is the introduction of Saab's first ever diesel engine. They haven't had one before because, frankly, they didn't believe a diesel could offer the level of refinement that they required. Well, all that has now changed with the arrival of a 2.2-litre direct injection turbo diesel with 4 valves per cylinder and dual overhead camshafts, and it delivers both strong performance and good economy, 0 to 60 in just over 10 seconds, and a combined cycle of 42 miles per gallon, and cruising will return over 52 miles per gallon. Now, Saab tell us that there are over 1,100 changes on the new 9.3 over the original 900 series, and most of those changes you can't see and you won't know about. They're there under the skin, so to speak. But they have improved the brakes, the suspension, the handling. All round, the 9.3 is a better car than the 900, so they tell us anyway. It's very difficult for us to judge on a quick test like we have today whether that is in fact true. Now, this of course is the new 9.3 convertible I'm driving at the moment, and of course the old 900 convertible is a car that did wonders for Saab's image. It was a car to be seen in, very chic, very stylish, lots of people wanted them, and they sold tremendously well for Saab. This is the 2-litre turbo that I'm driving at the moment, and of course it has that wonderful Saab turbo engine. When you put your foot down hard, you get such a kick in the backside. It's great to drive.
After the break on our Carfile Saab special, Ginny Buckley on living with the Saab 9.5.
Today's busy executive is faced with some pretty tough decisions, not least of which is which executive car they should choose to adorn their driveway and transport them in style and comfort from one high-powered business meeting to another. The competition for their business is extremely fierce, and the shopping list seems to be growing and growing. The list may be large, but it seems to be dominated by the Germans. Audi's A6 is a sleek and stylish statement. Mercedes-Benz have combined elegance and quality in their C-Class. And of course, top of every executive wish list is 5 Series engineering and performance from BMW. But there's now a neutral country hot on the heels of the Germans. Sweden is going for the executive car market with all cylinders firing. Volvo have always been known for their reliability and safety, but now they're also doing well in the design stakes thanks to the S70's handsome lines. And the latest attack from the land of snow and vodka has come from Saab in the shape of the 9.5, the replacement for the 9000, and as the name suggests, the car that Saab hope will lure car buyers away from the BMW 5 Series. Pretty ambitious, but Saab feel that the 9.5 has what it takes to take it to the top of the executive chart. There are 3 models to choose from. Top of the range is a 3-litre V6, there's a 2.3-litre, and this, the entry-level 2-litre at £22,000. But this is the slightly more luxurious SE model, and that'll set you back 24.5 grand on the road. But hang on just a minute before you sign the cheque. There's a few things to add to that. £1,220 for the 4-speed automatic gearbox. Leather seats, £1,150. A Saab driving pack with cruise control for £510. And for the luxury of keeping your posterior warm on those cold winter mornings, a cheque for £230 for heated seats. Bringing you to a grand total of just under £28,000. Wow, enough to put you behind the driving seat of a very well-equipped 5 Series or even the Mercedes CLK. So the Saab isn't cheap, but if you can do away with the extras, like the leather and the warmth for your posterior, then you do get a good list of standard equipment. To name but a few, there's driver, passenger and side airbags, electric windows and mirrors, air conditioning, a steering wheel that adjusts for both height and reach, and an excellent stereo. The feeling here inside the cabin is that everything has been designed for people who spend an awful lot of time behind the wheel. Saab, of course, are famed for the comfort of their seats, and work with orthopaedic specialists at the design stage has ensured that these are as comfortable as your favourite armchair. The instrument panel is typically Saabed, curving around the driver, putting everything within easy reach. One particularly nice touch is that the instrument panel can be dimmed at night, so it doesn't distract the driver on those long, tiresome journeys home. The driver does have plenty of space, as does the passengers, and there's an awful lot of luggage room for those executive briefcases and other stuff. All around the car are plenty of cubby holes, there's even a map holder and, of course, the obligatory cup holders. A couple of irritating points were the rather poor visibility in my particular driving position and the sound of the indicators that drove me absolutely mad. On the face of it, the 9.5 doesn't look strikingly different to its predecessor, but the changes are ones that you feel rather than see. General Motors have done a deal with Saab to supply the chassis for the 9.5. It's based on the Vauxhall Vectra, but Saab engineers have adapted it so that it puts the Vectra's ride and handling to shame. The 9.5 is smooth and supple and handles well on most roads, but it is a bit let down on sharp bends where it feels rather front heavy and suffers from body roll. The 9.5's engine range has been updated from the old 9000s. Both the 2 and the 2.3 litres get their power from 4 cylinders and a light pressure turbo. The Saab call their engines Eco Power, standing for ecology, economy and power. And power it certainly has. There's plenty of torque and the engine really doesn't have to be revved too hard to respond. Good soundproofing ensures that the engine stays quiet, giving you a smooth and a relaxing ride. But what lets the ride down is the automatic gearbox, which just doesn't seem to work in harmony with the engine. It seems to lunge the car forward as it changes, and the 4 speeds just simply aren't enough. A far better deal is to save yourself the £1,200 and stick to the manual option instead. This is without doubt a car you'd be happy to carry around the family in, as it's just packed with safety features. There's ABS, all-round airbags, anti-submarine seats, a head restraint to protect you from whiplash, side impact protection, and there are no less than 8 patented safety features on it. The Saab 9.5 is a well-equipped and comfortable car. It's practical and it's safe. It has a powerful, refined engine. You know that buying the 9.5 would be a sensible choice. It's a car that wouldn't let you down. But it's just not very exciting. It's extremely unadventurous, and it suggests that the kind of person who chooses to buy a 9.5 is a bit boring. The Saab 9.5 will give the 5 Series a run for its money, until it gets to the one point that sits at the top of every executive's wish list: image.